Chef Joe Youkhan here with Western Hospitality. I want to show you one of my childhood favorites from my Assyrian side of my upbringing. My grandmother came from Iran, and as an Assyrian American, they took all their dishes with them and always made these wonderful, amazing Middle Eastern dishes. And my favorite one is called Hareesa. Just literally it's porridge. It's porridge of barley and chicken, but there's just so much love put into this. It's absolutely delicious, even though it's so simple. It's something that we used to always have around the holidays because it took a long time to make. Even though it was simple, it just took a lot of time. Definitely Christmas time, you eat Hareesa for like a week straight. Just reheat every single day for breakfast, lunch and dinner too, but you'd wake up in the morning and you'd have this every day for sure. You know, growing up back east in New York, I waited all year for Hareesa, but luckily my grandmother knew how much I loved it. So my grandmother's name was Soriya, and she would make it for me every once in a while, so I get lucky that way. But quite literally, to make this porridge, we're gonna cook barley forever, and we really wanna like almost overcook it. And we rinsed this barley, we soaked it for about an hour, just to make sure you get any like dust and debris from when it's been packaged, just kind of bring it back to life. And then the way she cooked it was literally overnight for hours, simmering in this giant cauldron and stirring really slowly so it wouldn't burn on the bottom, like quite literally stayed up overnight. So fortunately for myself, we have these amazing inventions like the Instapot, where we can pressure cook the barley and literally get it done in 45 minutes. So from 12 to 15 hours to 45 minutes is pretty amazing. Does a great job. You can even use a crock pot and cook it for like 6 hours or so it's super tender. This is, you can't really mess it up. You want to overcook it actually. Here we have some homemade chicken stock. The key to this dish is just having this stock. My grandmother would actually cook the chicken in the barley at the same time, but here, to make things a little bit quicker and also to be able to get the meat from the chicken and have a wonderful broth or wonderful stock, I did it separately. So quite simply, we're just gonna take a 5-to-1 ratio. Typically when you're cooking barley, you want about a 2-to-1 ratio of barley to liquid, but that's just to cook it perfectly and have that to eat. But here, we're gonna make this into a porridge. So we're literally gonna puree this, and I'm gonna show you, instead of cooking for hours for it to break down, we're gonna use a stick blender and blend it to get that consistency that we're looking for. So we're gonna go 5-to-1 because we want a lot of liquid in this when we puree it. So we're just gonna add our barley to the Instapot. Next up, we're gonna add our house-made, homemade chicken broth. So that was 2 cups of barley, and this is 10 cups of that chicken stock that we made and reserved. All these goodies on the bottom, we're gonna get all that in there. That's all concentrated chicken flavor. Wonderful. So we're gonna give this just a quick stir. Don't really need to with pressure cooking, but I just like to make sure everything is all stirred up together. And then simply we're gonna put the lid on it. Super easy. And then we're gonna pressure cook. So I'm gonna go over here to my setting. I'm gonna hit pressure cook. It's gonna default actually to 45 minutes at a normal pressure. That's exactly what I want. And then we're just gonna let it do its thing. It's gonna give me an audible beep. Perfect. And then right now it's preheating itself and developing the pressure. When it gets to the pressure where it needs to be, it'll start its own timer at the 45-minute mark. When this goes off at 45 minutes, the barley will be completely cooked through. We'll release the pressure, and then we'll move on to the final steps of making Hareesa, one of the most amazing Assyrian dishes that you can enjoy. So our barley's been cooking in the Instapot for about 45 minutes on their normal pressure setting. So now we're gonna release the pressure. So you wanna be really, really careful here. There's a latch on the top where you can release it. There's a little silver bullet there where that's where the steam's gonna come out. So you wanna just make sure that you keep your hands free and clear from that. You can just allow this to naturally cool off for a while, and the pressure will stop to build, and then you can take the lid off. But if you don't do that, then if you want to go a little bit quicker, you can release it. So here we go. So you can see where you'd want to be very cautious with the steam coming out. There's quite literally nothing worse than a steam burn. Once this completely dies down and the steam stops coming out of it, then there should be no pressure on the lid and you should be able to take the lid off. But once again, you can also just let it sit and allow the steam to kind of naturally, or the heat to naturally die off, and then it'll have less pressure, and then you can be able to take the lid off easily as well. On the back of the Instapot, there's a little catch here. So some of this extra moisture that's coming out is actually coming into this lid area and then dropping down into a little catch. So it helps mitigate some of the mess. But you can see here, since we have a lot of liquid in here, we have some splatter coming out. So you're just gonna wanna wipe that off with a cloth almost immediately so it doesn't stick to your Instapot. 3 hours later. All right, so you can really see here that the steam is barely coming out now. It's not coming out pressurized. It's literally just the steam from it being hot in there. I don't hear it whistling. So we're gonna go ahead and close the valve, take the lid off, and then move on to pureeing it. So our nozzle just dropped down. That let us know that there's no more pressure in there, and now it's safe to take the lid off. You always wanna open up anything hot away from you, because you can see how much more steam's coming out. So this can also cause a burn, so you want to be very careful. So now, what we're gonna do is actually use our immersion blender to puree this to get the texture we want. So my grandmother used to cook this for hours and hours, overnight literally, till all the barley broke all the way down. And by the way, it doesn't have to be barley. You can actually use freekeh, which is like a smoked wheat that's cracked. You can use farro, any type of grain that's a really great ancient grain with a lot of health benefits. Could be amazing in this dish. Barley is our go-to for sure. And then what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna use our stick blender. You can even use a regular blender. Just becomes a little bit more taxing to transfer hot porridge basically to a blender and then back to a bowl. So I like to use the stick blender. So we're gonna stick it in and turn it on. And we're just gonna give it some pulses for about a minute. I just quite literally want this to turn into what you would think like would be an oatmeal consistency. So we're gonna puree about half of it down, and the other half we'll leave it nice and chunky. You can go to whatever consistency you like. I normally go about just under a minute, and I just kind of visually look at it. You don't want to pull your stick blender out while it's operating. You pull it up like this while it's on. You're going to splatter yourself with hot barley, so be very careful. Turn it on and turn it off when it's inside what you're pureeing. Let's give it a taste. Delicious. So now that we have our barley cooked off and we have the right texture, we're gonna move on to showing you how we build out the hareesa to become a finished dish. But man, 45 minutes versus 12 hours, I'm going Instapot every time with immersion blender. It's a great hack to make this amazing dish literally in an hour. So we have our barley that's been cooked in our Instapot for about 45 minutes, and then we pureed it with our stick blender to get the consistency we like. So we have this wonderful porridge consistency, and you can go as fine or as chunky as you like. I like it right in the middle. I like about half of it pureed, about half of it chunky, so there's some texture. And if it's too thick for you, if you think that the consistency is a little bit too thick, then by all means add a little bit of water or add a little bit of warm chicken stock to just kind of loosen it up. As this sits in the fridge overnight with your leftovers, it will definitely firm up. You will for sure have to add some water or chicken stock to loosen it up to get that porridge consistency. But this is exactly what we're looking for. Nice and thick, just like you're making a bowl of oatmeal. And then now we're gonna go to finish it. We have that whole chicken that we had simmering in our chicken stock. that gave all the flavor, but now we have the cooked meat. So we separated the bone and the skin, and we just have only the meat from that whole chicken. And now we're gonna introduce it into the barley. The way my grandmother used to do it is she used to actually cook the chicken and everything all together in it. And some people like to do that, some Assyrians like to do that, and they actually like to puree some of the chicken into the barley as well, just to become one porridge. I like to actually have little chunks of chicken and my creamy barley. So I separate it and I just introduced the two. I have my hot chicken that I pulled from my stock. I have the stock that I used to cook the barley in the Instapot. And then now I'm just gonna bring these two together. If you wanted to, you can actually use your stick blender again and puree some of this chicken in there. If it's too thick, like I said, you can thin it out. And then once I have all this chicken meat running through this, and you can see this is going to feed, you know, a family of 8 easily with leftovers. You can make as much barley as you like. You can put more chicken in there. You know, just completely depends on your taste and your preferences. But I think one whole chicken, the meat from one whole chicken to these 2 cups of barley cooked, you can see this is plenty to feed a family and have leftovers. So I'm going to show you how we finish it. I'm going to finish this entire dish that's ready for the family. But what a lot of people like to do also is just customize it and have their own individual bowls, but I'll show you how we like to finish it. My grandmother literally did melted butter and a little bit of sea salt and a touch of coriander. That was it. We're gonna do that too, but I had to put my own chef touch to it. So I actually made brown butter, so more like ghee. So I took butter and I cooked it down until it got nice and foamy and it started to turn brown and smell very nutty. So at that point, that's what we have here, which is just melted brown butter, or you can use ghee, you can purchase it, or you can make your own. If you'd like to see the simple step of making butter into ghee, give me a comment below and let me know and I'll share that with you. So we're gonna take this and we're gonna drizzle it all on top. So as much as you like. Right now, this dish is really healthy. Barley is super good for you. We're using organic whole chicken, we're using homemade chicken stock. Everything about this dish is completely healthy, but now we're gonna add a little bit of butter to it to make it delicious. So, you know, you can go as light or as heavy as you like. I love butter. Butter makes it better. So I go pretty liberal on the butter. And I just think that browning the butter, adding that layer of nuttiness to it, just takes it to a whole nother level. So there's our butter. And then now another element would be the coriander. I like to use whole coriander seeds, and I like to crack them in a mortar and pestle. I have this really cool mortar and pestle. It's made out of Himalayan sea salt. So like, how cool is this? It's not just for decor. It actually works really well to grind up peppercorns and coriander seeds. Here we're using it for the coriander, and you get a little bit of salt in there too, which is nice, but the salt's unabrasive. It works really well as a mortar and pestle. With the coriander seeds, you know, as broken up as you like it, you can immediately smell all that beautiful citrusy notes, that floral notes of the coriander. It's gonna work perfect. Coriander seeds go great, or coriander in general go great with chicken. So this is just a perfect synergy here for the dish. So I have this ground up coriander seed, and I'm just gonna put a little bit on top. Like I said, once your guests sit down to eat it, they'll put however much they like. I'm doing this just to kind of scent the entire dish and also to garnish it, make it look beautiful. Right? Your guests are going to be able to smell this and see this before it hits the table, and then once it lands on the table and they get to enjoy, they're going to love it. So we have our coriander seed ground up, and then now one little touch I like to do is some Allepo chili. So Allepo chili's got a little bit of spice. I like to kind of lift this dish up. I feel that when you have food that has a little bit of spice, it kind of opens up your palate and makes everything even more delicious. So this won't make it spicy. This will just kind of lift it. It'll make it look beautiful. You can put sumac, which would be a really beautiful citrus note here that works great with coriander as well. I'm going to use Allepo just for that little bit of kick. And there she is. It's beautiful. So please try this. You will not be disappointed. Let me know how it came out for you. This is one of my childhood favorites. When I think of my childhood, I can't think of it without thinking about Hareesa, one of the most amazing Assyrian dishes. Now it's time for me to enjoy this Hareesa that we just made, and I cannot wait. I don't have to wait for Christmas now. Oh, this looks amazing. So I'm gonna pour myself a nice little taste here. All that beautiful barley and chicken. And then at the table, And just every guest is going to want to serve themselves a little bit extra. We have some of that brown butter. Have a little bit more of that coriander seed that we crushed up. Wonderful. Another pinch of Allepo for me. And it wouldn't be a Middle Eastern dish without lavash. So pita bread, lavash bread. We have to have our bread. I know it's carbs on carbs, but it's a must. So you don't even need a spoon. You have your lavash, you have your bowl of hareesa. Just sop it up. But I'm gonna give it a taste first, and then I'm gonna enjoy it with the lavash as well. Oh man, can't wait. It's Christmas in my grandmother's kitchen right now. Nailed it, amazing. I gotta try it with the lavash as well. Like I said, utensils are optional here. As long as you have lavash or some pita, go right in. Get some of that chicken. Absolutely soul satisfying. This is comfort food 101. Savory porridge, how do you go wrong? Make this for your family. Let me know how it comes out. Please hit that like, subscribe to our channel. Let me know how this works out for you. Send me a comment. Enjoy. Bon appetit. It was really good.